Hello everyone, this is Paul. I just did a posting on one of the earliest, most eloquent defenses of the Christian faith, and I thought it was a fascinating document. This is an old manuscript that was discovered in the Middle Ages. It dates really, though, back to either 100 or 200 AD. Some scholars believe it was penned around 130 AD by a follower of Paul. It is undoubtedly very old. It's called the letter to Diognetus, and it's really the first very eloquent apologetic for the Christian faith. The document is composed of 12 chapters. Starting with the opening, the occasion of the letter, chapter 1. It then goes on to the vanity of idols in chapter 2, and how empty and meaningless such worship is to idols. It then covers what the author believes to be the superstition of the Jews and other Jewish practices. And then chapter 5 and 6 is what I'd like to share in this video. This is chapter 5, the manner of Christians, and chapter 6 describes the relation of Christians in the world. It's very well done, and I'd like to read it to you. Chapter 5, the manner of Christians. For Christians are not distinguished from the rest of mankind, either in locality or in speech or in customs. For they dwell not somewhere in cities of their own, neither do they use some different language, nor practice an extraordinary kind of life. Nor again do they possess any invention discovered by any intelligence or study of ingenious men, nor are they masters of any human dogma, as some are. But while they dwell in cities of Greeks and barbarians, as the lot of each is cast, and follow the native customs in dress and food and the other arrangements of life, yet the constitution of their own citizenship which they set forth is marvelous, and confessedly contradicts expectation. It goes on to say they dwell in their own countries, but only as sojourners. They bear their share in all things as citizens, and yet they endure hardship as strangers. Every foreign country is a fatherland to them, and every fatherland is foreign. They marry like all other men, and yet they beget children, but they do not cast away their offspring. They have their meals in common, but not their wives. They find themselves in the flesh, and yet they live not after the flesh. Their existence is on the earth, but their citizenship is in heaven. They obey the established laws, and they surpass the laws in their own lives. They love all men, and yet are persecuted by all. They are ignored, and yet they are condemned. They are put to death, and yet they are imbued with life. They are in beggary, and yet they make many rich. They are in want of things, and yet they abound in all things. They are dishonored, and yet they glorify in their dishonor. They are evil spoken of, and yet they are vindicated. They are reviled, and yet they bless. They are insulted, and they respect. Doing good, they are punished as evildoers. Being punished, they rejoice, as if they were thereby quickened by life. War is waged against them as aliens by the Jews, and persecution is carried out on against them by the Greeks, and yet those that hate them cannot tell the reason for their hostility. In chapter 6, the author goes on to speak about the relation of Christians in the world. In a word, what the soul is in a body, this Christian is in the world. The soul is spread through all members of the body and Christians throughout diverse cities of the world. The soul has its abode in the body, and yet it is not of the body. So Christians have their abode in the world, and yet they are not of the world. By the way, I have a separate article just on that point. The soul, which is invisible, is guarded in the body, which is visible. So Christians are recognized as being in the world, and yet their religion remains invisible. The flesh hates the soul and wages war with it, though it receives no wrong, because it is forbidden to indulge its pleasures. So the world hates Christians, though it receives no wrong from them, because they set themselves against its pleasures. The soul loves the flesh, which hates it, and the members. So Christians love those that hate them. The soul is enclosed in the body, and yet itself holds the body together. So Christians are kept in the world as in a prison house, and yet they themselves hold the world together. The soul, though itself immortal, dwells in a mortal tabernacle. So Christians sojourn amidst perishable things, while they look for the imperishable, which is in the heavens. The soul, when hardly treated, is the matter of meats and drinks, is improved, and so Christians, when punished, increase more and more daily. So great is the office for which God has appointed them, and which it is not lawful for them to decline. So that's a description of Christian life and Christians in the world from this letter to Diognetus, dated between 130 and 200 AD, somewhere in there. Probably one of the earliest apologetic writings that we have, and beautifully penned, as I might say. Thank you for listening, and check out the rest of the article on the blog.